This interview is brought to you in association with Rabobank.
Hello and welcome to another online rural delivery interview. With me today is Derek Fairweather. Derek's the Chief Executive of Dairy Solutions. Recently it was announced that the company had led a genetics team to develop a dairy cow to thrive in a lower elevation tropical climate and achieve high milk production under heat stress. Derek, that's quite an achievement. So what stage are you at now? Perhaps go back in time a little bit. Why did you do this? Where are we at?
I mean, our business is basically about packaging and adapting New Zealand pasture technologies for the tropics. And what we found is that there's some pretty significant gaps in the animal genetics and in the grass genetics. So quite some time ago, we were looking for the best cow we could find internationally, and we saw some animals in Costa Rica, and they looked really, really interesting. So we decided we'd have a look at what we could do with those animals, and through the passage of time, we realised it wasn't the breed we were looking at. It was the slick locust that we were chasing.
Hear that word? Can you stop and explain the slick locust for us, please?
If you just thought about it as a slick gene, then that's close enough. But it's a combination of genes. It's not only the hair length, but it's also the sweat glands. Looks like it's correlated to whether they're polled or not. There's a whole sort of cluster of genes that we call the slick locust. The brilliant thing about it is that what we can do is actually keep taking those traits and putting them in New Zealand dairy genetics. So what we'll actually end up with is very much a New Zealand dairy cow, so selected for pasture performance, but it will also have the heat tolerance. Originally it was bred in the Caribbean, but these cows have quite short hair and they are better at sweating, so they actually dissipate heat significantly better than other cows, around about a degree of rectal temperature, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you've got a cow under heat stress producing milk, the evidence now looks like that's around about 2 litres a day. So that's a huge number if you're living permanently in heat stress. That's a big value proposition for a tropical dairy farmer.
And how targeted is the trait? Is it possible to get that and keep all the other good things that we've already developed in the New Zealand lines?
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like it's very doable.
Yeah. Do they look any different?
Yeah, they do look a bit different. When they're born, if I showed you a pen of 50 calves and showed you one that was slick and then said go and find the other two, you'd find them. So they've definitely got a shorter hair and they look a little bit wrinklier. And
well-behaved, same sort of demeanour?
Yeah, that's part of the advantage of if you come back to the centerpole as being the original sort of breed that we got it from. They're a very, very quiet animal, and a lot of the tropical dairy breeds are derived from indicus animals, and their temperament is not good, so they're a very quiet animal.
So how many of them have you got?
We're over 30 now, and I think the total number of these animals will be a couple of hundred by next spring.
And where's the main marketplace going to be?
Look, I think South America, where they're using grass, it's a grass-based system for a lot of South America and the tropics. It should, be a very good seller over there, but also in, places like Pakistan and India, if we can get through the protocol issues, where they're not feeding them grass, but they are feeding the cows a forage, and some of our forage efficiency we get, I think will create a much better animal for those sorts of countries.
So aside from the obvious advantages, what sort of opportunities do you think that opens up if you're now able to run effective, well-producing, profitable herds in areas where perhaps that wasn't possible in the past?
Yeah, I think it'll be the start of at least an introduction to the way we farm, because we farm for profit and a lot of the rest of the world farms for litres, and they haven't quite worked out how you can actually produce less litres but make more money. And I think this cow will be the start of thinking differently about how you produce milk. It's not a volume game. We're actually doing it for profit.
Now, if we change elevations here, you're also doing some work more on the ground here, more at the farm level, and the high elevation tropics, which, when we look at it, starts to look a little bit more like New Zealand. And you've set up a demonstration farm in south of Colombia. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's actually at 2,800 metres. It's like spring in the Waikato all year round.
Sounds
the
good.
temperature range is quite narrow. Sometimes they get a frost, not very often. But then sort of maximum temperatures 25, lots of rain, fantastic growing conditions for ryegrass and clover. And, you know, a straight New Zealand cow, there's no need for any heat tolerance. A straight New Zealand cow is exactly the right kind of animal.
So you've gone there, the demonstration farm. Who are you demonstrating to?
Well, the whole region, about 40% of the region is dairy. So it's a hugely dairy-dependent region. A lot of poverty and some real threat from Colombia's entered into some free trade deals with America and Europe. And the local price is going to come down. So they've got to get more competitive to be able to feed their families. You know, that's a huge driver of the regional economy. And what we're trying to demonstrate is that feed your cows more grass, change to New Zealand genetics, New Zealand sort of pasture management systems and technology, and we can compete globally.
Can they afford to do that?
I don't think they can afford not to.
Yeah.
Current systems, you know, their current costs are just too high. So they're either going to exit or they've got to get more competitive. And, you know, I think we've got a very good solution to helping them getting more competitive.
And how are things going on the farm? It's, 120 odd hectares or so?
Yeah, it's been, the conversion's actually gone reasonably well. We're half the herd's calved down. The real challenge is now pretty obviously the American genetics that we're starting with. They don't like performing on grass. We've got lots of fertility problems. So it's going to take quite some time to be able to breed away from those original genetics. So it's pretty obvious that it's hard to do a grass-based system if you've got an American Holstein. So that's proving something that you just can't put a magic wand over and fix.
So you're demonstrating two things here. You're also demonstrating what doesn't work, aren't you, as well as what does. Yeah,
and the pain of transition. So you know, as you move away from those cows, how do you actually do it? Because you've still got to get milk and get them back in calf, and you know, you still got to get through for the next 5 years until you've got to keep decent percentage kiwi.
So what sort of economic equation are you able then to present, I guess, to local farmers in terms of, hey, this is where you're at with your production now, this is the sort of price you're going to get, and you can expect a dip in that, this is the sort of time period, this is the sort of investment, and this is where you beat out the other side. So what is that business case shaping up to be?
When you look at the capital required, their cost structures and their market price, it's a entirely feasible business. So the internal rate of return, you know, is sort of over 20%. So it's a good milk business.
And opportunity for New Zealand to be quite heavily involved if there was a large number of conversions in that space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were, you know, they've got a very good cooperative there, and it was a Kiwi who actually helped them set it up. So they formed the rules of the co-op. So we've actually got quite a long history in the region, and I think there's a big future as well.
Where do you think we might be then? You know, looking at your crystal ball a little bit, you've got much better genetics coming in at the lower level, in the more tropical parts of South America. You're working on a more Kiwi model up in the higher area. How's that going to change the South American dairy industry, do you think, in, say, the next 5-10 years?
I think there's a huge opportunity, actually. They can grow a lot of grass, and if we can get the right cattle genetics and the right management systems, then I think they can really complement the New Zealand production engine in a very meaningful way. I think it does mean back here in New Zealand we're going to have to move up the value chain. I don't think we can continue to think our strategy for dairy is commodities, because we're not the only show in town that's trying to do this, and if there's an opportunity, then you got to trust the market to close in on it. So there is definitely a very big opportunity.
And yet all the focus really, certainly in the media, is all on China. It's all on demonstration farms in China, milk production in China. This is quite a different proposition.
Yeah, I think we're sticking to the thing New Zealand's good at, which is growing grass. So we're not that familiar with feedlots. Our point of difference is grass, and that's where we tend to focus, is where we can grow grass and where there's plenty of rainfall.
Sounds like good sense to me. Derek, we've run out of time. We'll keep in touch with you on this, though. I'm interested to see where it goes. Thanks very much for taking some time today.
Thanks, Roger.
This interview was brought to you in association with Rabobank.